Good morning, holiday children and mommy. How are you guys doing today? Hopefully you had a great day yesterday and another day to learn what we have to learn about the birds in our area. This is lesson 15, and we're going to learn all about herring gull. 2 words, herring gull. Gulls are large seashore birds. Out of all the gulls, the herring gull, also commonly known as a seagull, is the most numerous, most spread out, and most adaptable. These birds have ventured beyond just the shoreline and can be found anywhere from northern Canada, where they nest in the summer, to city rooftops throughout the United States. In the winter, they can be found along the shores of Mexico. These birds once served as a food source for people because their eggs were so nutritious. It's believed that their eggs have been part of the human diet for possibly more than a millennium, which is 1,000 years. At one point, they were considered endangered when large numbers of them were killed in the late 19th century. They were one of the first animals that were fought for by the conservation movement when it first began. These early efforts were extremely successful to the point that the species not only bounced back, but became so numerous that they were considered a pest. They're suggesting an activity break in my book. They say, look up pictures of a herring gull and the sound they make. Compare them to other gulls and see how they are different. Have you seen one before? Today, herring gulls have decreased in population, but not enough to be concerned for their survival. As of 2015, there were an estimated 246,000 breeding herring gulls. The population of herring gulls seems to depend partly on human activities throughout history. Hunting and collecting eggs had a negative impact on their population until conservation efforts came into effect. Fish scraps and waste discarded into the ocean provided a rich food source for the gulls, while newer fishing practices have less waste. Hunting for whales, dolphins, and porpoises removed competition for the smaller fish, meaning more food, until whaling became illegal. Now, pesticides, oil spills, fishing nets, and overfishing remain ongoing threats to the herring gull population. Herring gulls will migrate south each year, but they always return to the same territories each season. While summer nesting is in Canada, the rest of the year they spend traveling. They migrate towards the seashores along both coasts from northern United States to Mexico. They also find many places in the eastern United States to dwell during the winter. It is less common to see them in the Midwest, but not unheard of. What do herring gulls, what's their appearance? What do they look like? Well, herring gulls are large birds, you've seen them, I know you have, ranging from 22 to 26 inches in length and a wingspan of 53 to 58 inches. Mature adults have long, powerful yellow bills and robust bodies. Towards the tip of the bill, there's a small red dot. Breeding adults have a white head, rump, tail, and underparts. The wingtips are black with white spots called mirrors. The majority of its wings and back are light gray. Their legs are long with a light pink color. Their eyes are yellow in color. Juvenile herring gulls are easy to spot because they are not white like their parents. They start off as a mottled brown color until they mature. During breeding season, the herring gull is white and sleek with just black mirrors on its feathers and gray wings. In non-breeding seasons, however, they have their winter plumage where their head has brownish gray streaking, perhaps to help them blend in more with their surroundings. You can watch these birds form patrols that will soar over shorelines and the open ocean in scattered groups looking for food. When they find something floating on the surface or spot a fish, they will spiral down to grab it. Tighter groups stay together when following things like whales, dolphins, or large schools of fish. They will nab up the smaller fish driven up to the surface. So what do herring gulls eat? What's their diet? Herring gulls' diets will change with where they are and what is available. When given a choice, they prefer marine invertebrates like crabs, sea urchins, and clams. Even though this is their favorite food, it is not their primary source of nutrition. Instead, most of their calories, protein, and fat come from fish. They will also eat insects, smaller seabirds, eggs, worms, or even trash. Because they are migratory birds, they eat what they find. Herring gulls, like owls and many other omnivorous birds, produce pellets of indigestible material such as bones and shells. Their habitat, where they live. You will often see herring gulls above fishing boats, on docks, or even hanging out in parking lots. They span the entire North American continent looking for lakes, rivers, coasts, garbage dumps, and any place they can scavenge for food. They breed near lakes and coastal areas across northern Canada all the way into Alaska. They will form colonies on isolated terrain such as islands, barrier beaches, marshy hummocks, or even on rooftops where they are safer from predators. What's their life cycle? How long do they live? Herring gulls form a bond with their mate that lasts for their entire lives. This is different from other gulls who will find a new mate each season. They are not fully mature until around 4 years old, so breeding pairs do not form until they reach maturity. They only do one brood a year because it takes longer than most birds to raise their young. Each brood will have 1 to 3 eggs. The eggs are quite large, being up to 3 inches in length and 2 inches in width. Before the eggs are laid, they will build up to 4 different nests, each 10 to 15 inches across, 4 to 8 inches wide, and just deep enough for the eggs. They line it with vegetation, feathers, plastic, rope, or other materials that they find. Once built, the couple decides which of the 4 they would like to use. Once the eggs are in the nest, the female will continue to add materials to the nest. Incubation takes an entire month, and the responsibility is shared by both parents. Once the eggs hatch, young stay in the nest for about 45 to 50 days, though they are born with their eyes open and covered in downy feathers. Even though they nest for so long, they are able to move around outside the nest within several hours of hatching. Gulls have a little red spot on the tip of their beaks. This is a target for the babies will peck it when they are hungry. When they peck at it, the parents will open up and regurgitate food into their mouths. By the end of the nesting period, the young are able to fly, but they will often stay with their parents for another month. Herring gulls go through stages of molting and plumages during the juvenile stage, slowly changing from brown to more white that shows they are mature and ready for breeding. These birds have a long lifespan and have been known to live in the wild up to 30 years. So they're suggesting another activity break. Herring gulls live on many isolated land masses like islands, barrier beaches, and marshy hummocks. Look up some of these types of land masses and see how they differ. Using Play-Doh or modeling clay on a paper plate or piece of cardboard, create one of those land masses. Boy, that sounds like fun. That's a great idea. I'm sure you've got a lot of things at home Mommy can help you do. And yes, my dear ones, it's time for you guys to get out your notebooks. Mommy's going to pick up the slack after me. Have a wonderful, wonderful day together. Be nice to each other. Hug your parents, and you know Granny loves you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.